Hello and welcome to episode number 35 of the Wise Guys podcast. I'm John Tortorelli with my co-host, can't say my last name, Brandon Capizzello. And today we're going to be recapping our most notable games that we watched of Week 5 in the NFL season. Those are Thursday night, is Russell Wilson washed after only scoring 9 points versus the Colts in a disappointing loss at home? The Packers are upset by the New York Giants, something I believed, though I wasn't sure Daniel Jones would start, and he indeed did. The Patriots absolutely demolished the Detroit Lions. B-Cap's going to have a breakdown for us in that game. And the Steelers were utterly destroyed versus the Buffalo Bills. And in a fashion that was so upsetting, I really just want to take a couple minutes in that game and move the heck on. But starting off with Thursday night, B-Cap. The Colts are going on the road to the Mile High early in the season. It was a must-win game for both teams. Each of the two coaches are on the hot seats, two aging quarterbacks. Russell Wilson, after the game, it was revealed he had a partially torn pec, and he underwent a surgery to repair that. When you watched Russ, and especially late game, his inability to score in the clutch time, are you now concerned? Is Russell Wilson washed?
No, but I do want to correct you. It was a partially torn lat near his right shoulder, not a pec. No, he's not washed. Again, I don't get the Russell Wilson attack propaganda that's kind of going on right now in social media land and in the NFL world. I don't get it. I don't understand it. I definitely don't understand the personal and character attacks that are starting to come out against him. I don't know where that came from. The only thing that I've heard is from Richard Sherman, but Richard Sherman talks a lot. He's like the for lack of a better term, the little boy who cried wolf a bunch of times. He's just going to keep talking. He's just going to say a lot of things, and that's fine. That's Richard Sherman. But yeah, I don't get the Russell Wilson washed. This guy was, I mean, he got injured last year. He hurt his throwing hand. He still had like 25 touchdowns to 6 interceptions. This year, it was revealed that he's been playing the last 2 games with the partially torn lat. Again, I'm not going to sit here and blame Russell Wilson because he is a quarterback who has gone to 2 Super Bowls. He's been a part of a team and won one. He's been an all-pro. He's been a perennial Pro Bowl caliber quarterback. He's a guy who's thrown 40 touchdowns, 35, 36, all these, really good numbers. And I'm putting all the blame on Nathaniel Hackett. The offensive line is not getting the job done. The running game's not getting the job done. Melvin Ingram's got 4 fumbles in the first 5 games. Jerry Jeudy, while he had a all right game, well, not even all right, inconsistency, and Cortland Sutton inconsistent. The tight end dropping an easy, well, not a quote unquote, it was a tough catch. He got hit, but still, that's a catchable ball. If I tweeted, if Noah Fant is that tight end on that play, he's making that catch and it's a touchdown. And our co-host is not here with us right now. He texted and said, regardless of that top drop touchdown pass, the Russell Wilson played like ass, basically, or the Broncos offense played bad. And I agree with that, but what he deflected to mention is the fact that I said if they score the touchdown on that play, they win the game, because the Colts and the Broncos, for the most part, both showed that they were unable to score touchdowns throughout the entire game. The final score was 12-9. The Colts won the game on a field goal. So I don't get it. One thing I also don't get that I mentioned earlier is the Noah Fant. I don't get why they traded him. I don't know why he was a part of that deal. When you're bringing in a quarterback of Russell Wilson's caliber, you're going to want all the receiving threats and offensive weapons you can have. I don't know why he was included, but yeah, no, he's not washed in my opinion. I don't know. I don't. Yeah, everybody's going to blame Russell.
Appreciate you pointing out. I might have said he got surgery. It was an injection on his throwing shoulder. My issue is when you go 2 of 15 on a third down and you can't score in the red zone, those possession downs are crucial for a team that you have a brand new system, brand new team. You're trying to gain some continuity, and the best way to do that is by getting the splash plays. And ultimately, Russ's interception on the last drive, his missed read when KJ Hamler was wide open on third down that possession, those were critical mistakes. And while you can point out his physical, he was hurt, he was injured, playing through injuries, and those physical, shortcomings, let's say, due to where he was at, can play a role. That shouldn't affect his decision making. That shouldn't affect him missing reads, not making the right plays. And that ultimately is the one thing for the Broncos. You gave this guy $254 million. The expectation is for him to carry you over the top. And for him to leave Pete Carroll in a situation in Seattle, which right now they have a very good offense with all the talent, to then come here, you can't just deflect all the blame on Nathaniel Hackett, because this is what Russ signed up for. He picked a team that had Nathaniel Hackett as their head coach. If he didn't want Hackett, he wouldn't have came here in the first place. So I think there has to be more accountability on his end, because in the post game he was still, Broncos country, and then he gave the most disheartening "let's ride" after walking off the podium. He's committed to this franchise, and so because of the situation he chose, he's going to have to find a way to win in spite of the coach not being good, in spite of Melvin
Well,
Gordon's issues holding on to the football, and Jerry Jeudy not being that established number one. Because, like you said, Jerry has a lot of talent, and that's the reason he was a top end first round pick. But with Russ, you would expect him to take that next step into a top 15, top 20 guy, because if he's really a top 5 quarterback, that's what happens. Stephon Diggs goes with Josh Allen in Buffalo. Both those guys level up, and that's ultimately the way it should go with offenses that are expected to be as good as they are.
yeah, no, I mean, but you also forgot to mention that the offensive line, I think, is one of the main problems. I think it goes Nathaniel Hackett, and then the O line is really a big problem because when you're not giving Russ time to really survey his options, and I know people probably they could clip that part off and be like, well, look at this play, the KJ Hamler. He had time to read his options and he didn't read his options. I get it. He made a bad mistake. The throw to I forget the receiver, but the one that Gilmore picked off, that was a bad mistake too. Even if he threw it, I know he threw it late, but even if he threw it on time, Gilmore looked like he was reading that the whole way and he was just waiting to break on the ball. It
The
it
Colts
hasn't been
line
a,
is a bigger issue.
yeah, Colts line is terrible too. That yeah, they're bad too. But I just think it's a bad partnership at the end of the day. I just don't think they match well. Um, yeah, like I think a lot of people are getting spoiled by the fact that we saw Tom go to a new system, learn it on a pandemic year, win a Super Bowl. We saw Matthew Stafford go to a new system, go win a Super Bowl, and we expect like a Matt Ryan or a Russell Wilson just to do it right away. I know I did, but it's not as easy as those two made it look. Um, Tom Brady went to a team that was absolutely stacked with talent, had a competent and veteran and experienced head coach in Bruce Arians, had great coordinators too. Matthew Stafford went to a team that was stacked with high-end offensive talent and defensive talent, had a stability and an offensive whiz kid and genius in Sean McVay, established teams. Russell Wilson went to a team in shambles, new head coach, and a head coach that they hired solely because they thought they were getting Aaron Rodgers. So they couldn't back out of it after that. He went to a team that before this season even started, Tim Patrick tears his ACL. I believe he's out. That's one of his top 3 targets. They traded away Noah Fant and included him in the deal, which I said, I don't think that was a good idea. I think that was terrible. I think you could have given up another second round or third round pick instead of giving up him because you talk about the red zone tragedies for the Broncos. I think Noah Fant would have done at least made the numbers better because he's a big body tight end. Yeah, and I know Russell hasn't really connected with tight ends over his years, but Noah Fant is a pretty or Fant whatever it is a pretty damn good tight end. He's been actually the most reliable and consistent offensive weapon on this Denver Broncos team. If you look at it, he's played the most games. He's had a consistent contribution. But yeah, I won't absolve Russell entirely. I'll give him if I were to give him a 10 to 15% blame for Russell Wilson, but the rest is spread between Hackett, the O-line, and the offense being inept, really. And it's looking like this was a terrible, terrible partnership at the end of the day.
Another grave tragedy was early on Sunday morning, the Green Bay Packers losing to the New York Football Giants 27-22. Coming into this game, we weren't sure if Danny Dimes could play because of his ankle injury. Last year, he was trying to play through a lower body injury, and then it led to, I think, a hamstring strain that very game because he was immobile and couldn't really get outside the pocket to evade pressure. Early in this game, it was just ugly for the Giants defense to stop Aaron Rodgers. On third down, he was making it look way too easy. And meanwhile, Danny Jones, he wasn't really looking like himself either. He wasn't really extending the play. He wasn't using his legs the way we've seen him in the past. But as the game went on, as there's a little bit more adrenaline kicking in for this Giants offense, they're getting the ball to Saquon more. They're utilizing Darius Slayton. There was one giant missed opportunity over the middle where they misfired on one another. They started to put points up on the board. And this Giants running game, the Packers knew it was coming because, quite frankly, you're missing four of your top six receivers, and the number one guy is Darius Slayton. It's pretty abundant, where it's pretty obvious where the abundance is going to come from in this Giants attack. Saquon had himself over 100 yards, 106, and a key touchdown later in the fourth quarter. And the Packers offense, in key moments, wasn't able to finish drives. And especially with Rodgers not having that reliable go-to option, they were taking shots. There was one, I think, on fourth down where he almost got to Allen Lazard. And as the game waned on, Daniel Jones continued to look more and more comfortable. He had 10 rushes by the end of this game. And ultimately, Brian Dable did one phenomenal job dialing up the right plays and scheming up touchdowns in the red zone in creative ways. When Saquon comes out of the game, they're still scoring with their third running back in Gary Brightwell. There was the double reverse to their tight end, the rookie, and Bellinger, which was a phenomenal play call. It was creative. And Dable getting this Giants team to 4-1 is by far the most impressive thing of this NFL season. Nobody expected this team to have 4 wins. And to beat the Titans week 1 and then the Packers week 5, two very competitive teams that last year were the number 1 seeds in their respective conferences with top tier head coaches, we assume. I don't know if LaFleur's there. And a Hall of Fame quarterback. The New York Football Giants are back. This is not the Panthers from last year. You win a game like this in London, and you show Daniel Jones played his best game of the season. He was mature, he was poised, and he used his greatest strength, and most of all, his toughness absolutely shined through.
Yeah, but I would just gotta say that this Packers defense hasn't really been very good the last 2 weeks. Well, I mean, they had that really good game against the Buccaneers. They held them to 12 points, but Brady was really down with like 5 of his starting offensive players out of the game. And then they held the Bears to 10 points, but that's the Chicago Bears. But yeah, the Packers defense just has not played very well at all. I mean, in the last, I think the Giants scored on their last like 5 possessions or something like that. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 possessions and then, get rid of the safety, but 5 possessions in a row that they scored on this Packers defense. And only hold Daniel Jones, who I don't really have high regard for. I'm sorry. I think he's a very good backup quarterback, and he's not a starting caliber quarterback. It's just I'm looking over the history of what he's put out the last 3 seasons. This is his 4th, I believe, or his 5th season. Sorry. I just look at it and I say, there's nothing that this guy has shown me to say that he is a starting caliber quarterback in this league, or that we should have any faith or hope in him. It's just, it is what it is. I wouldn't say this is a majorly impressive game simply because this Green Bay Packers team for this season has been a pretty big disappointment. The defense has been disappointing. Rodgers and the receivers are still learning each other. It just hasn't really looked good. And I don't even know, are we going to be sitting at this end of the season saying, is Aaron Rodgers going to retire? Because is he really going to want to come back to this? I know he signed the contract extension, but doesn't matter. He could still send in his retirement papers and say, see you later. Uh, but yeah, the final drive where they had the 14 play drive and they turned it over on downs. It was fourth and goal, two back-to-back plays with the batted down balls. Uh, it sucks. The first one to Randall Cobb looked like it would have been a tough ass catch, but the way Cobb was playing that day, I wouldn't have been surprised if he caught it. And then the last one to Alan Lazard, it was going to be a 50-50 ball, a fade route. Rodgers maybe should have lofted it, but I'm not gonna sit here and say Rodgers should have did this with the pass. He's Aaron freaking Rodgers, the Hall of Fame quarterback. Um, the defense has made a great play. And like I said about Baker last week, the offensive lineman got to do a better job of chopping the arms down. I know we got one comment, and me and John were talking about it before air, of a guy who said he was a college quarterback and said, "You don't know anything that you're talking about, Brandon. No knowledge of football." Well, all I heard from the offensive linemen is that it's their job to keep the arms down and chop their arms down. I believe it's Charlie Davis who does commentary work, and he was calling the Panthers game today, and he said the offensive line needs to do a better job at chopping the arms down, keeping the defenders down, and yeah. So I guess I don't know what I'm talking about, though, right? Yeah. He, and he didn't cost them the game, but he cost them a shot at Aaron Rodgers trying to pull out another Hail Mary with the false start at the very end of the game. Like, you just can't have it when you're supposed to be the best offensive lineman on the field. And they were like, finally, we get our left tackle back, our all pro left tackle back. And you make the critical mistake in the most important possession, maybe second most important possession, because the fourth and goal one was more important at the time. This one was just like a 50-50 Hail Mary shot. But we've seen Aaron Rodgers do it before. We saw Aaron Rodgers do it against a Giants team in a wild card playoff game. It could happen.
And speaking of crazy, the Packers going into this game were 2-score favorites, and with the way they played this year, I didn't see it. And what that leads us to, I was using BetStamp to find that information. We're partnered with BetStamp. It is one of the most useful all-in-one betting platforms to finding the best odds, because ultimately, no matter what it is that I do, I want to be the best. I want to find ways to maximize my profits and get the most out of my time. And what BetStamp does is puts all the sports books that you sign up for in their specific app into one place, one location. I'm the type of person that learns best with visual presentation. And that's exactly what they do for you. And better yet, if you want to track your bets at the end of the year, you want to do your taxes, you can track that all in the BetStamp app. Be sure to use our referral code at WiseGuys. That is WISEGUYS. Now, as your boy Justin says, he's unfortunately not with us. If you're doing anything, you want to educate yourself, and that starts with doing your homework. Be sure to do it using their app.
That's it.
And yeah, they were, for DraftKings, 8.5-point favorites, the Packers, in this one. And I was like, dude, this is going to be a one-score game. And it was throughout the entire second half. Ultimately, for Green Bay, they got outcoached. There's no other way to put it. You get Jair Alexander back. He was great early in the game. Adrian Amos and Rashawn Gary this year, rep in New Jersey, he's been awesome all year long. And when you have that much talent, you go out in the draft, and instead of taking a George Pickens, who's been one of the two bright spots of the Steelers this year, you take Devontae Wyatt and Quay Walker, who haven't made the type of impact to make this a good defense. And you're looking at this Packers group. Okay, so we traded Devontae Adams for an off-ball linebacker we're not going to actually use. Or, no, better yet, we do use him, unlike Wyatt, but he's not good. He's replacement level. So I have many questions about this Packers team. The management, the decision-making, and the coaching on the defensive front have all been poor. And when Rodgers needs the support, we know this offense is not going to be what it was a year ago. Those parties all need to step up. And up until this point, they just haven't made any progress that we need to see. So I'm pretty much out on them. I'm going to the Super Bowl. I feel like that was a little bit overblown on my end to expect them to just figure this thing out.
Yeah. Yeah. They just better, hope that Rodgers doesn't retire at the end of the season.
See what Jordan Love has. Moving over to the Patriots.
Yeah.
After Jared Goff last week got up 45 points with the support of TJ Hawkinson having a career game, he went scoreless. Not a single touchdown in Gillette Stadium versus the New England Patriots. I predicted this game very wrong. I had the Lions winning. And so I had to ask you, how did the Patriots defense go turbo like that?
Well, I mean, I guess you can just say Bill Belichick has Jared Goff's number. We saw it in the Super Bowl, and we saw it, earlier today. 0 points. The defense, like I said before the season, I've been saying over the last 4 weeks, it is a top 10 defense. We might not have that mega star or superstar talent, but goddamn, we got players and playmakers everywhere you look. Matthew Judon is insanely talented coming off the edge. Jonathan Jones is filled into that number one cornerback spot perfectly. This kid, Jack Jones, the rookie out of Arizona State, has come up with two interceptions in back-to-back games, one on Aaron Rodgers with a pick six today on Jared Goff. That was a great toe tap on the sideline. Our defense is playing very, very well. Our run game played out of control today. Damian Harris had an hamstring injury. Hopefully he's, okay to go next week or, throughout the season. But Ramondre Stevenson filled that role perfectly with 161 yards rushing. Jacoby Myers, he found the end zone this week with Bailey Zappi as his quarterback, and he had 111 yards receiving. Hunter Henry finally, came to life, and we finally got a sighting of him getting a couple of catches. So, listen, Zappi didn't. If you go off of QBR, he had a 25 QBR. He only missed 4 passes. He had 188 yards passing, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. He did what he needed to do. He got, and what's even crazier is that I said Jacoby Myers had 111 yards receiving. Zappi had 188 yards passing. So you take those away, he's only got 77 yards passing. Jared Goff, on the other hand, at QBR, a 6.6. So this Lions team, we came in today, this Lions team, the number one scoring offense in the league. And the Patriots defense just went in and shut them out, 29-0. So for you saying last week or a couple of days ago that the Giants are in a better position, even though they just beat the Packers, I show you we almost beat the Packers with our third string quarterback, and we just shut out the Lions' number one scoring offense with a third string quarterback under center. If we have Mac Jones, we most likely win our against the Packers, and it's a whole different story. Now we're, instead of 2-3, we're 3-2, and even if you look at those early games, against the Ravens and then against the Dolphins, those are very winnable games. Again, all I heard before the season was the Patriots are done. They're not doing nothing. I heard it from John. I heard it from his boys. I heard it from people on TV. Yeah. Right now, yeah, because we have our third string quarterback. Against the Ravens, we did put up a fight. Were these games out of control that we lost? No, right? That's what I'm saying. They were very winnable games. One thing here, one thing there. And again, Mac Jones, it's going to come with experience. You always I love to bring up the fact that we made the playoffs last year, and you love to bring up, well, what you do in the playoffs. Well, again, I show you we had a rookie quarterback. We made the playoffs with a rookie quarterback. Not a lot of people can say that.
That's very true. Now, the Lions, well, they had been an electric offense this year, and Jared Goff has, up until this week, improved. They were missing DJ Chark, DeAndre Swift, and Amon-Ra St. Brown, while he did play, was limited. So I'm not going to put too much stock. I mean,
yeah, but John, they didn't have Amon St. Brown nor DeAndre Swift last week.
yeah, they're playing the worst defense in football in Seattle.
Still put up a lot of points. I'm just saying they played without these guys. Again,
You knew what Belichick was going to do coming into this game. After the outing that TJ Hawkinson had, that was going to be the focus of this Patriots defense. How can we neutralize him to make sure he doesn't take over? Because if he does, it was going to present a lot of opportunities for Jamal Williams and even, what's his face? Josh Reynolds, who was very good the last couple of weeks. And shout out to your boy, Ramondre Stevenson. I almost forgot. 160 rushing yards.
161.
he could be a number one running. I mean, 25 carries, they're just feeding him that juice, and 6 yards a carry for him. Pretty crazy with no Damien Harris.
This is the one thing that's weird about our Patriots is that, I mean, my Patriots is just when you expect them to be bad, they're not. And it's just kind of frustrating a little bit because it was like, I don't know when Mac's coming back. I didn't think we were going to win the Super Bowl this year anyway. I just thought we'd be a playoff team, but I kind of solely moved my mindset and focus into we're getting a top 15 pick or something like that. God, I mean, if we keep winning games like this, and our schedule doesn't look that hard coming up the next couple weeks, so we could definitely be alive. And I honestly cannot wait for us to play the Jets and the Bills this year. It's going to be highly interesting.
It's going to be very interesting. Their schedule, it's a lot of toss-up games. You got the Browns next week, then the Bears, which should be an easy win, the Jets, Colts, Jets again, Vikings November 24th, and the Bills. So realistically, even with Bailey Zappi starting these next 2 weeks, you guys can very easily get to 4-3, and then you have Matt coming back to play the Jets October 30th, I guess the day before Halloween, at MetLife Stadium. So the season's definitely not over for the Patriots. Now, speaking of a team that, much like the Pats, is unwilling to ever be bad and is in a pretty big rut right now, their season is over. That is my Pittsburgh Steelers. They went into Hallmark Stadium today versus the Bills. And from the very beginning, Kenny Pickett in his NFL debut was just never going to have an opportunity to win the game. Steelers get Josh Allen backed up on the 2 yard line, first drive of the game. And what does he do? Throws an absolute laser to Gabe Davis, who takes it for 98 yards. And the following play, because Steven Sims had an eye injury pregame, our kick returner and Justin Lane, or James Pierre, not Justin Lane, muffs a kickoff. And the Steelers were able to get the ball back. They were able to hold the Patriots from getting up 14-0. Kenny Pickett had a really good day, especially later on in the game when it was garbage time. But this Steelers team, they're trying to win games. And in spite of that, they are one of the 5 worst teams in football right now. And the reason why is because they can't win without TJ Watt. Without him, they generate next to no pressure. And when you're playing Josh Allen, you can't beat him if you're not going to hit the guy. It's as simple as that. And today, they did not get to him. If memory serves, they did not sack him one time. And when you give him time in the pocket, he's going to deliver on some balls. Minkah Fitzpatrick was playing this game on a knee injury. He was in concussion protocol last week. And our entire secondary was depleted, much like the Giants' receiving corps. Terrell Edmunds was out. Ahkello Witherspoon was out. Levi Wallace, the former Bill, got an interception in this game, left with a concussion. And our backups in Demonte Casey, Carl Joseph at safety, those guys are on IR. So the Steelers' defense stood with basically a practice squad, no chance to win this game. But what really irritated me is how predictable this team is. It's the same looks, same styles, same schemes for quarterbacks to pick apart. Josh Allen ripped us up today, but it was just 2.5 weeks ago on Thursday night. Jacoby Brissett looked like a borderline Pro Bowler connecting with David Njoku and Amari Cooper. This defense is so inherently flawed, and as Cam Hayward continues to age, the clock is ticking for the most expensive defense in football to actually show us some semblance of life without TJ. Alex Highsmith is good, but he's not number one. The linebackers have been fine this year, and the secondary has been ravaged by injuries, and they lead the league in picks. They have 8 this year, but it's the amount of plays they give up. And for Kenny, he had over 300 yards. In this game, he showed some poise. He moved well in the pocket. He made throws, had one rough interception before the end of the first half, throws the ball into a little bit of double coverage and cover two. It was a bad read. Outside of that one mistake he made, in this game, he was freaking good. Playing against one of the best defenses in football, he showed the ability to move the chains. On third down, we were better, much better than what we were with Mitch Trubisky, but ultimately the offense stalled out 3 straight possessions in the first quarter. 3 straight 3-and-outs. While you got Josh Allen on the other side, it's not going to work. And the sad thing is, while we could have a chance to get top 5 pick and really a game-changing defensive piece to inject into this core on a rookie contract, they're still going to try to win games. These next 4 weeks, they have the Buccaneers at home, the Dolphins on the road, the Eagles on the road, the Saints, and the Colts. There's a chance the Steelers could start the year 2-7, 3-6, and they're going to try to fight their way back to having a 9-8, 10-7 record, and it's just not possible. They're the worst team in this division, even without the Browns having Deshaun Watson. And quite frankly, right now, like I said before, they are in purgatory. The only guys who looked good in this game were Kenny and George Pickens. Because right now, with all of the money they're committing to this team, there are so many flaws. The coaching, the coordinators especially, in a league where it's the most innovative, are very easy to pick apart. They're not very creative. They're not innovative, like I said. And ultimately, I predict this team to win 10 games. I labeled them a playoff lock. I maybe should have took into account that TJ Watt can't stay healthy because with him, they are probably a 10-win team. And without him, the Steelers might be the worst team in football.
They're not the worst. That's going a little too far. But yeah, and I'm pretty sure I saw a report that TJ Watt's return has been delayed because of some mess up or
Arthroscopic knee surgery.
yeah.
That's wrong with the pec.
Yeah. But listen, Minkah, I don't want to hear knee injury with Minkah Fitzpatrick because John, you actually stated to me specifically, and I want to get this right. So you said that you don't care if somebody's playing through injuries. You don't care. You said that. You said this, and I quote, "If you play through injuries, I'm going to evaluate you," end quote. So I don't want to hear knee injury, especially I don't want to hear knee injury when the knee had nothing to do with the fact that Gabe Davis got thrown an absolute, I think it was Gabe Davis. Yeah, it was Gabe Davis, an absolute deep ball on him, Minkah Fitzpatrick, one-on-one, and his hand was in the middle, and he was unable to make a play and cause an incomplete pass. He was unable. There was a play where I forget which running back it was, or it was a receiver, broke free, and he had a chance to make a tackle. He was the last line of defense, and he didn't make the tackle. This defense is absolutely garbage. Just like the Ravens pass defense, this defense is giving a terrible name to the history of the Pittsburgh Steelers. And if it's that reliant on TJ Watt, maybe you need to look into the fact that you've got some wrong guys playing for the Pittsburgh Steelers on defense, because it shouldn't be just one guy that you take out and now you're 0-8 or whatever the record is. That shouldn't happen.
They were missing 4 starters in this game. Larry Ogunjobi left the game, like I said before. Levi, Akello, and Terrell were all out.
Yeah, but you still had Devin Bush. You still had Miles Jack. You still had Cameron Hayward, even though he is aging. You still had Minkah Fitzpatrick. You still had people out there that are talented players, and you still had a Mike Tomlin led team. Listen, I told you that your team is not going to make the playoffs this year, but the silver lining is Kenny Pickett at least looks good. He doesn't look like he's afraid of the moment at all. He had a above 50 QBR this game, which is very good against a who John says is the best defense in the league. I disagree.
No, it's for San Francisco.
Yeah,
but they're in the second tier.
But yeah, I don't know. Your Steelers are top 10 pick bound.
This is Mike Tomlin's first losing season.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I predicted that before the season. I said, but it's not gonna. I'm not gonna. That's not a blemish on Mike Tomlin's resume at all. I'm not gonna hold this against him.
I do, because Matt Canada is an absolute fraudulent offensive coordinator that he hired. So I do think if you're the CEO type, you have to put in the minds. If you're not a genius in a certain area, you got.
Well, if you want to say that Mike Tomlin as a GM is not doing a good job, that's fine. But that's like Bill Belichick. Bill Belichick as a GM is terrible. He's not been very good. I shouldn't say terrible. He's just not been good at evaluating talent, really. He's had some hits here, just like Mike Tomlin, but it is what it is when you have those, head coaches that command such a presence. They're going to take over and be the GM and head coach. It is what it is.
I hope that's not the expression we use the next 11 weeks, because this Steeler team is absolutely abysmal.
I would just move your mindset to we're getting a top pick and on to next year. Well, they're going to fight.
9 games.
You're kind of like in the Patriots way, where it's, you wish that your team, if it's just a bad team, just be freaking bad. Stop doing good so we can get a high pick, because picking number 15, 14 overall, 16 overall is not doing anybody favors when we can be picking top 5, number 7 overall. Like it's just not doing anybody favors.
You always give yourself a bigger bite at the apple. But with apples now being a topic of discussion, anything else you got before we wrap up this episode number 35?
Oh, let's get into Sunday Night Football. It's already underway. 4 minutes in.
Thank you guys for watching and staying to the very end. Be sure to use our referral code and check out the Bet Stamp app today. And as always, we'll see you next time. Justin's not here, so stay classy.